Two people save $6,000 every year at the exact same 7% return. One starts at age 25, the other starts at 30. Same discipline, same amount, same rate of return. But that 5-year head start is worth close to $500,000 more by the time they retire. This has nothing to do with luck, income, or which stocks anyone happened to pick. It comes down to a small number of rules about how money actually moves. Rules almost nobody is taught before they need them. In the next few minutes, you'll understand exactly how money grows, how debt grows even faster against you, and the handful of concepts that separate people who quietly build wealth from people who simply work hard for a paycheck. And the part that surprises most people isn't about investing at all. It's about a card already sitting in a wallet, quietly working against its owner every single day, in a way most people never actually calculate. Stay to the end, because the last concept here is the one people get backwards most often, and getting it right can change how much of your own money you actually keep. Explain the main problem. Most people treat wealth as a question of income. Earn more, have more. But personal finance runs on a small set of mathematical rules. How interest compounds, how debt behaves, how time multiplies both. And almost none of it is taught in school. So people make major money decisions the same way they'd guess answers on a test they never studied for. Explain why it happens. These rules stay invisible in daily life. Compound growth looks like almost nothing for years before it suddenly accelerates. A credit card minimum payment looks manageable every month because it's built to feel small. By the time either pattern becomes visible, a decade of growth or damage has already happened. Nobody sends a warning when a habit quietly crosses from harmless to costly. The statement just arrives again, looking about the same as the one before it. Main educational points compound interest is interest earned not only on your original money, but on all the interest that money has already made. Picture a single sheet of paper folded in half 42 times. In theory, that stack would be thick enough to stretch past the moon, roughly 384,000 kilometers away. That is exactly how compounding behaves. Flat and unremarkable for years, then suddenly explosive. The mechanism is real, and it cuts both ways. A $1 million portfolio earning 8% for 30 years grows to roughly $9.8 million after a low 0.1% annual fee. Raise that fee to just 0.5%, and the same portfolio ends up over $1 million smaller. Lost not to bad investing, but to fees quietly compounding against the saver instead of for them. The rule of 72 is a shortcut for estimating how long money takes to double. Divide 72 by the interest rate, and the answer is the number of years. At 8% growth, money doubles in 9 years, but the same rule works against you just as easily. At 3% inflation, close to the long-run US average since records began in 1913, cash sitting in a low-interest account loses half its value in 24 years. On a credit card charging 18%, an unpaid balance doubles in just 4 years. Same formula, opposite direction. The 50-30-20 rule is a simple way to structure a paycheck. 50% of after-tax income covers needs: housing, groceries, basic transport, minimum debt payments. 30% covers wants: dining out, entertainment, subscriptions. The remaining 20% goes towards savings, retirement, and extra debt payments. If needs alone are eating more than half a paycheck, the problem isn't small luxuries. It's a structural gap that no budgeting app can fix by itself. One trick worth borrowing: irregular costs like car registration or holiday spending can be divided by 12 and set aside monthly inside the needs category, so the bill never arrives as a shock. A credit score decides what all of this actually costs. It runs from 300 to 850, built from 5 factors. Payment history counts for 35%, how much available credit is being used counts for 30%, the age of accounts counts for 15%, and credit mix and new credit each count for 10%. Utilization matters more than most people realize. Using over 30% of even one card's limit can drag a score down, because issuers report the balance before a payment posts, even for someone who pays in full every single month. That score decides the interest rate itself. A strong score can land a card around 15%, while a weak one can push the same card above 27%, nearly doubling the rate from the score alone. And that score is expensive to ignore for a second reason. Credit card interest compounds daily, not monthly. Issuers divide the annual rate by 365 and apply it to the balance every single day. On a $5,000 balance at 22%, the minimum payment comes to about $142, and $92 of that, nearly two-thirds, goes straight to interest. Paying only the minimum can stretch repayment past 20 years. Adding a fixed $200 a month instead clears the same balance in about 3 years and saves thousands in interest. Roth versus traditional retirement accounts get reduced to a simple pitch: pay tax on a small seed now or a large harvest later, implying Roth always wins. Mathematically, that's incomplete. If the tax rate is identical both times, the final result is exactly the same either way. What actually matters is the tax bracket today compared with the tax bracket in retirement. Someone in their highest earning years often keeps more by deferring tax now at a high rate and paying it later at a lower one. The real question was never seed versus harvest. It's which years count as the highest tax years of a person's life. Real-life example. Here is what compounding means in real numbers. $10,000 invested today at 7%, left untouched for 30 years, grows to about $76,000. Delay that same investment by just 5 years and it only reaches around $54,000. A roughly $22,000 loss for doing nothing except waiting. Time is not a minor variable in this equation. It is the entire equation. Mindset shift. A scarcity mindset says, I don't earn enough to invest. A financially literate mindset says the amount matters far less than starting now, because time is doing most of the work. The 5-year gap in the very first example was never about being richer. It was only ever about starting sooner. Practical action steps. Nobody needs to master all 5 concepts today. Start with 1. Calculate an actual 50-30-20 split from a real paycheck this week. If a credit card balance is compounding daily, add a fixed amount above the minimum every month instead of letting the minimum shrink on its own. Check a credit report for the utilization number specifically. It's the single fastest factor to correct. Small, specific actions compound in exactly the same way money does. A financial future is never decided by one big decision. It's decided by a handful of rules: compounding, the rule of 72, budgeting ratios, debt mechanics, and tax timing, applied consistently, starting now rather than later. The math doesn't respond to excuses. It only responds to time. If this made it clearer how money actually works, subscribe for more breakdowns of the financial concepts nobody teaches in school, because the earlier these rules are understood, the more time is on your side.